Tight bond wood glues, quietly keeping woodworking projects together for over 70 years.
Let me see if I can plant a seed for a project that maybe will take root in your shop. It's this planter right here, and this project is all about using the right material, using the right joinery, and using the right adhesive in order to hold everything together. So what we want to do is have a look at how to construct this whole thing. It's got compound angles in it. I've got these ends angled down like this, and the sides are angled down similarly. Although it looks complex, it's really very simple to do, and it's a project that's going to look great in your garden. Let's have a look at getting the pieces formed so that you can make a planter like this for yourself. First thing to talk about here is material selection. This is, after all, a project that's going to live outside, so we want to make sure the material is going to stand up. I've chosen Western red cedar, readily available at home centers. It doesn't mind living outside, and it's available in wide pieces. I'm using 1x12s here, so I can get plenty of dirt in there to support the roots on my plants. The other thing we want to do is figure out the dimensions of this thing. Now, I cheat in my woodworking whenever I can, so this rectangle, when it's complete, when it's put together, is going to form what's called a golden rectangle. The way I did that is that I determined the length of my sides. They're 24 inches. I divided 24 by 1.6. That's the ratio of the golden proportion. That gave me the length of my sides. So it's nice. It creates a rectangle when you're done that's pleasing to the eye, and it's a nice workaround for your project. So again, the ratio there, 1.6 to 1. Now, you can see I've already got these pieces cut at an angle. That angle is 10 degrees. You can use whatever angle you like, but I find 10 degrees works really well. So each of the 4 pieces is cut at 10 degrees. The ends of the project, we're done with those for right now. It's the front and the back, these long pieces, that we're going to work with next over at the table saw. Here at the table saw, I'll be doing the joinery that's going to hold the planter together along with the adhesive. And the specific joint I'm making is a rabbet joint, a little L-shaped relief. It's only cut in the front and the back. So here's the way it's going to work. In the table saw, I've got a full width dado head that's built up to 13/16 of an inch. What'll happen is that I'm going to place my 10-degree cut against the sacrificial fence, pass the material over the top of that dado head. It's very simple. It's like pulling a rabbit out of my hat, except that I'm getting a rabbit from the dado head here on the table saw. When you make these cuts, be sure that you're keeping the outside face of your piece up on both ends of the cut. We're ready to put our project together. A couple things here at the bench. One, gather together the offcuts that you have from when you cut the ends of these pieces at 10 degrees. We're going to use those as clamping cauls to help overcome the angle. Otherwise, it's going to be real difficult to clamp everything together. Make sure you've got your glue handy and ready to go. Glue brush is very helpful for applying it. One more thing on these pieces. The other thing I did at the table saw was I put a ripping blade on. I set the blade to 10 degrees. And I cut both the top and the bottom at 10 degrees so that when they splay out with these angles, the bottom and the top will be horizontal, will be parallel to the ground. So make that cut pre-assembly, then we'll be ready to put this thing together. Glue selection for this project is really important. We are, after all, making a planter, and if I'm not mistaken, plants need water in order to grow. So we want to have a glue that's going to be able to withstand that. If that soil is at least damp, if not wet all the time, that means the wood is going to be damp and wet, means the adhesive is going to get damp and wet. So in this case, we want a glue that is waterproof, not just water resistant, so that it can withstand that. So I've got a waterproof glue here, and here's the deal. What I'm going to do is brush glue on all the rabbets, filling those rabbets with glue. And then I'll show you some tricks for putting this together. All right, now here's a great way to put this together. I'm going to do everything upside down. So I'm going to start with one of the fronts or backs. Don't do it upside down that way. Then this piece. Now, the problem with clamping is that if I simply put clamps on these angled surfaces, it's going to have a tendency to climb off of there. So instead, I'm going to take my offcut, position that like that, another one like this. Now the first thing I want to do is close the rabbets against the shoulders to make sure the joint's closed all the way this way. So what these offcuts do is get the clamp pressure so that it is perpendicular to the surface. It's going to make this a whole lot easier. Now at that point, this box will pretty well stay together. Next thing, I'm going to go this way, span that with the clamp, same thing back here, and we'll have all of these joints closed up in no time at all. While the glue is drying on the box, what you can do is start working on the bottom of the box. We don't want the dirt to fall out of this thing. So here's my approach to that. I measure inside to inside across the width, inside to inside down the length, and then add the same number to both of those. So what I want to do is get the bottom of this thing so that it's up above the very bottom edge of the box. So I'm going to take this number, the width, add 1/4 of an inch, the length, add 1/4 of an inch. That tells you the short point to short point dimension on the bottom. You've got to cut that bottom at the same 10-degree angle, both on the long edges, both long edges, and on the two ends in order for it to nest nicely down in the bottom of the box. Drill some holes in it for drainage, and that'll be ready to go in. I allowed the glue to dry, then pulled the clamps off. Meanwhile, like I told you about, I was working on the bottom. I've got 10-degree cuts here on the ends, 10-degree cuts on the edges, drainage holes drilled in there so the water can drip out. Now when this goes in, a little bit of glue on each of these surfaces, let that just nest right into those 10-degree angles you've got inside the box. That's also going to add some rigidity to the construction as you glue that in place. So this project is all about the right material, the right joinery, and the right adhesive to hold everything together. Give this a try, check it out. I think you're going to find it's got a lot of growth potential for you and your shop.